Hi there, you're tuned in to the Secret War on Cash podcast. I am Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America Trading, and we are going to talk today about BRICS. I have a lot of good information that has come out here recently about BRICS that it really seems like the discussions we've been having and as we've been covering this over the last couple of years, in a manner of speaking, it's kind of coming to a head. And I have my co-host with me here, Chris Agelastos, today. Chris, thanks for being here, and let's talk a little bit about BRICS. We have, there are a few interesting things that I found in these two articles that we're going to cover today. Mm-hmm. This first one, pretty harsh. BRICS ready to destroy U.S. dollar. Trump's worst fear realized. I mean, those are some pretty strong words, and it's seemingly, unfortunately, given what's happening, it's kind of seems to be somewhat accurate. And this is something that really is getting to be somewhat out of control, we'd say, meaning like Trump's doing what he can to try and, stop or slow down or whatever he can do to just get in the way of this whole BRICS, get in front of this whole BRICS situation. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And nothing just seems to help. And that's why they're saying here, it's Trump's worst nightmare being realized. And, central banks, let's see first off, we've got a 41% jump from normal levels in quarter two. Is that right? In gold. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Yeah. 41%.
Yeah. 166 tons, they say, in quarter two of gold was added to BRICS central banks.
That's unbelievable. I mean, and they're looking at, they talk about it in here. And again, for those tuning in, this if you're not involved in gold, it's brand new to you. This is why people are buying gold. It's why everyone should have gold right now as a means of diversification in your portfolio. It's not only, they say here, not only a hedge, it's insurance against this fragile global monetary system. And I think that's a very accurate description of what it is that we have here. We have a very fragile economic system. And I think that, again, as there's been a lot of things said why BRICS, they have no they're not unified. They don't have a unified front. Yeah. And that may be what's stopping them. But I got to tell you, Chris, you start seeing and hearing these things, and the BRICS nations are buying gold. Their banks are, and they may not be united at this point, but it just seems to me at every turn they're kind of working things out. They're working through things and they're figuring it out.
Yeah, well, that's it. And look, they have a lot of the pieces in place or really close to being able to lock it down. So the major points that I saw from this article and others, talking about this, obviously the gold purchases, which you mentioned, the BRICS nations, especially China, India, Russia, and even Turkey, have really ramped up their buying of gold for their central bank. So that's that big increase that you were talking about. BRICS is working on, launching its new common currency. And I know, detractors will say, look, the U.S. dollar, it continues to remain the primary reserve currency, which is true. Okay. But we've got this big group here, which controls, almost half the world's GDP, working on a unified currency. So no, they're not there yet, but they're working on it and close. And on top of that, they're putting it together with a digital infrastructure, which is crypto essentially. Or you hear people talk about new digital currencies and the way of the future, and that it does make sense to make a good payment system, a digital payment infrastructure to be able to transact amongst nations and be able to do business outside of the U.S. dollar and also the SWIFT banking system. And so they're putting these big pieces in place. And they even point out here, which is true from what I've heard, that the Trump family has been very involved in crypto as well. So,
I want to talk about that a second.
Yeah.
It's interesting. They're talking about, they're calling it the Trump crypto news. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things they're citing in here, and I found it interesting, is basically that Trump's involvement and kind of gravitation towards the crypto is speaking to the lack of faith or confidence he has in the dollar. And that's kind of concern because, like, we see all this that's going on around us, that's happening around us, price inflation, all the uncertainty, this tariff and trade war. And then you see, you read something like this in what, Trump and his crypto news. And by the way, did you see that early on in the article there? I'm sure you did, that the Trump family has made in this whole crypto process $4 billion. That is what they're saying. And when I read that, I was like, "Holy smokes! Is that just since he took office?" I'm going to investigate it a little more. I might lean on my friend ChatGPT. But if that's when he took office, he only took office in January, so that's $4 billion in basically 8-month period of time. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and even if they're talking about since his first term, who knows how far they're going back here, but it's certainly a big chunk of money. And is it? Again, they're trying to get clicks here, right? I mean, it's a pretty sensational article and headline. Is it really that he doubts the dollar, or that he also sees opportunity in this market because of others doubting the dollar? So who knows? I mean, I think he is a businessman, obviously, and sees opportunity and wants to take advantage of it when he can. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But you can't deny that all these pieces are here. It's not good news for the dollar. Right. I mean, if none of this existed, we wouldn't have to worry about it. The reason we're talking about it is because BRICS does exist, and they are actively working to promote their own currencies, which obviously, hurts the dollar. So it is real. We're going to have to wait and see how bad it is, and can President Trump and others put enough safeguards in place to help avoid a crisis here. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, that's just it. And let me tell you, though, it doesn't like the title of the article says, this is Trump's worst nightmare, worst fear, I should say. And BRICS is ready to destroy the dollar. So it's, I'm not so sure. I don't know what kind of power, President Trump has in this equation. And especially, it also cites in here, Chris, in the fact that BRICS nations, 46% of the global population, as well as 37% of the world GDP. So my point is like, to me, that says, they've got some backing to them. They've got, some support there. And as I mentioned a moment ago, they may not have it all worked out, but they're definitely working on trying to figure it out. And that's what I think is of concern. And let's get into this next article here as well. Where tariffs hit the U.S. consumers beyond BRICS countries, Goldman Sachs says. Now, what Goldman Sachs is talking about is that this tariff war, or trade war, if you want to call it that the U.S. consumers are going to be bearing 67% of these tariffs. And whereas right now, businesses are absorbing 64% and consumers are 22%. But Goldman Sachs is suggesting in short order here, we're going to see a reversal of that. And that was kind of the concern from the beginning, is that, okay, that's great. We're charging a tariff. The whole premise or impetus for these tariffs was that, these countries are getting a free pass to us, whereas we're getting assessed all these tariffs. And I understand that logic, but by the same token, how many podcasts have we covered, and how many different things have we seen in the news here, meaning all of us, those tuned in, and us as well, Chris, about how households and families are having difficulty, paying their bills, how they're maybe having to go back to work, or they're living off credit cards, or tapping into their retirement account. I think it was a few weeks back, we talked about how I think vegetable costs are up for the year, like almost 50%, I think 47, 48%. So that's the concern, is that, okay, great, we're flexing our muscle against these BRICS nations and the tariffs they're inflicting on us, but ultimately speaking, who's really going to suffer? It's you and I. It's the average American or the American household.
That's right. And if we're only feeling 22% of that tariff increase right now, and we're about to shift to 67%, what is that going to do to the average household? You know, there are already a lot of people here struggling in the U.S. and I don't say that to say that this is a horrible place. We've got great things here, great opportunity, and certainly great lifestyles compared to most of the world. But people have felt the pain from inflation ever since COVID, and most certainly increases just in the last year with these tariff wars. So, things like laptops, a lot of other electronics, cars, we're already seeing price hikes in those areas. And if we're only swallowing about a quarter of it right now, and that's going to increase, I worry that we're going to feel it more. Not necessarily as much in our food and energy prices, they say, but all of our other core inflation, they call it core PCE inflation, which is everything but food and energy prices. It's already expected to rise to a little over 3%, and the government's goal is to keep it around 2%. So I know, we talk about this a lot too. Oh, 2%, 3%, it's only a 1% difference. No, it's a 50% increase.
Right.
It sounds like a small number, but it's a 50% increase, and they're estimating that equates to about $2,700 per household. So an extra couple $100 a month that the average household here is going to be essentially throwing out the window. They're not getting anything extra for that $200 a month. That's just $200 less that they have to put towards education, food, groceries, healthcare, things like that. So I do worry that we're going to see some more bumps in the road here before things start to get better.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And we're, as they talk about here, which I think we're all aware of, we're in a tariff war, a trade war. And the concern is in the article itself, it talks about Brazilian President Lula da Silva. Yeah. How he won't call Trump because he doesn't want to humiliate himself, because he knows if he calls Trump, he's going to be humiliated. And my point is, like, that's how are we going to get any kind of resolution to this if no one's talking? And
there's no dialogue, right?
Correct. And that I think speaks to the entire situation. In fact, I think it's India, Russia, it's Brazil, Russia, and is it China, who are going to be meeting and discussing different things, but they're discussing it from a BRICS perspective, not in a pro-U.S. perspective or some form of resolution. So that's why this situation and this dynamic has been really interesting to watch, because it's just been a very momentous situation where it's just continuing to grow and grow and grow. And I think we're going to see that. And it begs the question at some point in time, is there going to finally be that proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back? We don't hope so, right. But by the same token, it really is not looking too promising at this point. So not to end on a low note, let's end on a high note. If you want to learn more about the secret war on cash, or get some information about how you can diversify into metals and get a more balanced portfolio as some of these changes are taking place, you can contact us at 1-800-289-2646. Or you can actually text us at that same number, 800-289-2646. And you can also visit us online at SwissAmerica.com. If you have any questions specific, or you'd like to add anything to our discussion here today with a little question for Chris and I, you can email us at podcast@SwissAmerica.com. For those of you who have done so, we love it and love hearing from you and love the interaction. So thank you for subscribing. If you are, and if you are not, please do so. And we look forward to talking to you more in the future.
Take care.